Frank, are there things that should be replaced on a vehicle even when they seem to still be working currently?
Yes, that does happen sometimes. For example, uh, many years ago, when a spark plug would last maybe 10 or 15,000 miles, and the car just wouldn't run right, and you'd bring it in and ask for a tune-up, and you'd get new spark plugs, and it would feel better. Today's cars run very efficiently, and spark plugs are made with precious metals, um, palladium, and stuff like this that makes them last a long time. So it's very important to follow the manufacturer's recommendations for spark plug replacement, and they'll always have either a time and or mileage interval. For example, many Mercedes are 5 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first. And we've often heard people say, boy, but the car feels like it's running great. Why should I do it? Great question. Um, the manufacturers know as these parts age out, they will start to degrade and affect your overall performance. So by replacing them at the proper interval, you may not even feel a difference, but you just need to know you're doing your part for lower emissions and longer reliability.
Okay. How about I mean, is there some things that has to do with safety that you want to get it replaced now, even though it seems to be working just fine?
When we have vehicles in for maintenance service, we'll do a brake inspection many times. And if the brakes are, well, I'd say between 1 and 2 millimeters of remaining material, we will make a recommendation for the customer to consider replacing them. Um, a couple reasons is they're getting close to the absolute wear minimum, and a lot of times it's more convenient for people to do it while the car's already in. Our lives are busy, and it's hard to worry about bringing it back in again. People get busy and they forget. So by catching stuff like that when it's very close to the wear limit, can help prevent damage later on. Um, you've heard the term metal to metal on the brakes, or the brakes were completely worn out. And these are some of the things we try to help our customers prevent an expensive repair. So don't wear your brakes all the way into the brake rotors, and then you won't have to replace them prematurely. Brake rotors do wear out and do need to be replaced periodically, but if you're on top of it and getting your brakes inspected on a regular basis, it'll help you save money in the future.
What about tires, Frank? Tires, I mean, in Las Vegas, you have the dry heat, and I've heard of dry rot. So, are the tires, do you recommend them being replaced just by looking at them or the tread? I mean,
Yeah, there's tires now are required to have a date code stamped on the outside of it, and it'll be a four-digit code. The first two digits will be the week the tire was made, and the last two will be the year. So we use that along with a visual inspection. And if we see tires that are 7 or 8 years old, we will recommend replacing them. And especially if we see that spider webbing or that cracking in the tread, which is that dry rot you were just mentioning, we'll certainly recommend tires be replaced. Tires are funny. What happens a lot of times is they get harder as they age, and it's kind of a gradual deterioration. And we'll get in a car and test drive and say, "Boy, the car, the ride quality just isn't there," or there's a noise that said it's from the tires, and the customer will say, "Well, the tires have plenty of tread. I don't understand how it could need it." Um, and we've had many times where the customer has agreed to replace the tires and then called us up and says, "I cannot believe how much nicer my car drives now with new tires." So that is something that may look okay, may seem okay, but a professional, a real expert who's really sensitive to how the car feels, will be able to make that recommendation based on tire noise, tire visual inspection, and the tire manufacture date.